My name is Ben Frederick. I'm a real estate broker here in Baltimore. I specialize in apartment buildings and investment properties. And I'm here with Corey Brown of C. Brown Enterprises. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ben.
What is your philosophy for your company? What is your business philosophy, your mission statement, or what are some of your guiding principles?
So my goal and my philosophy and mission was really to help people not only understand the business, but make the transition of being an investor a little bit easier and an opportunity to learn the business. Initially, it was because it was something I enjoyed, which translated into something that I wanted to profit, which really honed into something that I wanted to do to help people. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And it's still the same way. I still have the same drive, same energy, same passion, just a little bit larger scale point at this point of my career.
Okay. And that's really part of your philosophy, is to create housing, to use your skills, use your knowledge to create housing that treats people with respect and gives people a decent place to live, no matter what their income level is or no matter what their background
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just because people grew up or lived in the hoods or the tough areas of any city, Baltimore, California, it doesn't matter. Everybody, and this is what I know for a fact, everybody wants to live in a nice home. Everybody. It's not one person I've ever met that's like, I really like this rundown, place. Every single person, no matter where they come from, all cultures, all races and creeds and, ethnic backgrounds, every single person, if they don't want anything else, they want a nice home. Something that's suitable to them, obviously, which changes, part of the culture, but they want it to be nice. So that's really important to me, and that's kind of part of my, in addition philosophy, but my passion as a designer. When I get into, as a licensed contractor, passion being design, that's always my goal. Like, how can I make this house cozy and user-friendly for a family, to where kids are happy and, the mom feels good in the kitchen and, the dad is comfortable in his living room watching a game, and just all of those things, which are so important. And it's much deeper than just putting paint on a wall. And, and then, I have fun with it too. It's kind of, the creative side of it is kind of my gift that I enjoy. I mean, I have a contemporary kind of feel, but just to kind of sit back and see the whole picture and say, man, this is really cool, is what is the gratification for me. That's what I actually, it's personal to me. That has nothing to do with other people, because everybody don't necessarily appreciate it, but to actually see it come to life and, to be a thing of beauty. I tell people all the time, I'm just an artist. I'm an artist, but my canvas is real estate. So it's what I really, really enjoy more than anything else. So one of the biggest pitfalls that I find is the investor who obviously wants to make a profit, right? Not really understanding the business. I become the educator, if you will. People really don't understand the moving parts, or all of the moving parts, and what it takes to have a successful investment. It's a lot of different components, from going to rent court, dealing with the tenants, as you said, immature, emotional personalities, every component that's inside the house, the registration, the court system, dealing with that, and each state has its own court system, which, ours being a little tenant friendly, but nonetheless, it's so many different components to the business. The other side of making a suitable home for the residents or the tenants, it's important to make sure that the client who wants to, with goodwill, have a good investment, they understand what they're getting themselves into. This was an older couple that had a property that they lived in for a long time. I did a small renovation, cosmetic, just kind of spruced it up, and they had a oil-based boiler. And I advised the client, I said, listen, I don't know if this is gonna you probably want to change this. And again, he's on a fixed income. He worked for the post office. His wife, I don't know where she worked, but really, really, really sweet people. Really, probably some of the sweetest people you could meet. But they were on a limited income, and they were ultimately going to keep the house in the family. They were going to give it to some younger family members, but didn't think that they would take care of it. So they, figured, well, we'll make some capital. No more than probably 6 months when the summer hit. This oil-based boiler didn't go up, but the residents didn't want to have to pay for the oil. And then it became, this thing was ancient. This boiler was ancient. And it was oil-based. So now just trying to get oil there on a regular basis was an issue. So we ultimately had to go back and forth to court because they didn't feel like, even based on the lease terms, that they had to pay for oil, and they didn't want to pay for it. Well, now, if they don't want to pay for the oil, the court systems, they don't really care. They want oil purchased for this family. So basically, it kind of came down to where they had to spend more money to buy oil for the resident to live in the house. Wow. So it out of the little bit of cash flow that they were receiving, they had to turn back around and spend it on oil for a period of time, which I really, really felt bad for them. Although I kind of suggested that he get a new boiler or get a new furnace, but he just didn't have the funds at the time. I see good people in different situations where just either not understanding the business or not knowing what may happen, and then it happens, and financially they're not in the position to do it. Now, the stigma is, they're slumlords, and they're really, really nice people. Just bad things happen to good people sometimes.
Yeah. So there's a retired postal worker and his wife. They decide to rent out their house, supplement their retirement income. Nice, decent people, and it just goes bad.
It goes bad.
Yeah.
Really good people. Both couples are really, really good. People have a litany of things to say about people when they don't understand the process or really don't care to understand. So just hearing them say that they're bad people and they don't care was one of the things that really hit home, because I knew that they did. I knew that they cared. They just, they were limited on funds. Again, if you're living more or less check to check, which, to be honest with you, probably 70% of the investors, if not more, and I'm just kind of winging a number based on experience, but probably 70 to 80% of the investors that actually invest, they still live check to check. Hence one of the reasons why they're looking to be an investor, to supplement the income so they don't have to live check to check. So it's not like these people can just go and pull out the large amount of capital to, take care of large tickets, a roof, a leaky basement, furnace. These items start at $3, $4, $5,000. The stigma is because you own property, you're rich, right? I hear that from the tenant side a lot. I know that they have money because they own property, and that could probably be one of the most furthest things from the truth that I've ever heard. But again, on the surface, when you own property, people don't know where you got the property from. It could have been passed down. It could have been inherited, whatever. They just assume, and this is just a resident mentality, that you're rich. And that's one of the things that, as you speak on chips down on both ends, that's the case. And nobody really knows why the chips are down on either side. The owner doesn't really know why the residents are in a bad situation. But quite frankly, the resident, subsequently don't know why the owners are in a bad situation or if they're in a bad situation. So it's kind of twofold. Nobody really knows what the other person is going through. And I'll speak on that even as a kid growing up, not to get too personal, but if I told my story, of which I plan to do at some point, or I do when I speak to people, when I do speaking engagements to kids that come from where I come from and they see me, I really like to be a inspiration to young African-American kids that think that they can't make it. because I come from the same place, as I mentioned before, drug addicted families and things like that. But when they see me, maybe owning my own business or driving a decent car or being a clean cut guy with a suit on, the assumption is something completely different. Oh, he comes from a background with a silver spoon in his mouth, and I'm sure his mom has money and and he's rich and he doesn't struggle. And as I said before, it is so far from the truth because, I struggle just like the next person. I've dealt with probably more stuff than any person could imagine, but the assumption based on perception, even if it's not a perception that you're necessarily trying to put off. I mean, I'm not a flashy guy. I'm not trying to be, this big icon. I'm trying to inspire, but people's perception of what I'm trying to give off in terms of just even a clean cut persona could make people think, oh, he owns a real estate firm. I know he's a millionaire. And I've actually heard that. And I'm like, dude, listen, if you only knew how tough it gets. It's true. It's really true.
Like, of your portfolio of properties that you own or manage, like what percentage of your portfolio participate in Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher?
We're probably at about 30% at this point. We were a little higher, maybe about 50% a few years ago. But for different reasons, we've kind of scaled back. Even my own advice to my clients are not to put all of their eggs in that Section 8 basket. A lot of my clients come in the door, we want Section 8, we want Section 8. And my first question is, why? When I do my general kickoff meeting or meeting with the client and I'm trying to get an idea of what they want their portfolio to be, Section 8 always comes up. 100% of the time, hands down, right? Just because it's, government funded program, everybody knows about it and everybody hears good things about it. So I give pros and cons. It's, on both. Generally, what I want them to understand is it's a good program. So I talk about, the benefits of the program where, which everybody knows, it's in essence guaranteed funded because it's funded through the government.
So it's guaranteed rent.
It's guaranteed rent. 90% of the time, you can almost know that the rent's going to come. It's going to come on time, which is really important. And that's probably the only positive that most people want to know. Again, people get into the business, we're all in this business to make a profit. So the financial piece is the most important piece. Well, the other thing is knowing that they'll get a marginal rent amount. Now, you get people that'll stay a period of time, but not as long as they thought. I mean, these people are thinking, I'll stay 10, 20 years. And I'm like, no, you probably want to kind of 50% of that, maybe, 3 to 5 years is average. So those are the positives.
So the average expectancy for a voucher tenant is that they're going to be with you for 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years is what I've seen.
It's typical.
It's typical. You get a few that'll stay longer, but an average time period is 3 to 5 years. The negatives were not knowing the type of people that you would get. Obviously, dealing with lower income people, as they say, and I tell people this all the time, you get what you pay for. So, Baltimore is a blue collar town, I'm sure you know, but the Section 8 market generally houses people that have either fallen on bad times or, quite frankly, just lazy, and which is the reason why they're in this particular situation. Well, dealing with those type of people comes along with their own personalities and issues, and don't think it just stopped because they're on Section 8. Well, now you have to deal with that as well, right? You have to deal with those same personalities and same, people taking care of the home and, attitudes. You still have to do business because, quite frankly, that's who we're doing business with. You're doing business with the actual tenant, not Section 8. They're just, funding the housing, but you have to deal with these residents. So outside of not knowing if they'll keep the house in good condition or working order, the attitudes that come along with the, non-educated people or people who just don't care, but also dealing with the system of the housing program, the restrictions and things that you can't do and things that you can do. And
Give me an example. Like, what are some of the restrictions specifically?
you can't vet a resident on their financial stability, which in some cases, in a lot of cases, tells a picture about a person. You can't vet them on that because hence the reason why they're in a subsidized program, which could also help the picture of deciding if this is a good person or not. And the Section 8 program is probably the most powerful rental program in the world. So the inspectors and the people that are involved understand the power that they have. So some of that power can be used to your disadvantage as an investor, because if someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed and they wanted to citate you for something that was really marginal.
Like, for example, what have you been cited for that?
Not having trash receptacles. I've seen one inspector say one thing. I've seen another inspector say something completely different. Now, if this Inspector A is okay with it, but Inspector B isn't, Inspector B can hold up your rental income that Inspector A thought was perfectly fine. And unfortunately, you can't go back and say, well, Inspector A said I was cool, because Inspector B is going to say, well, I don't really care what Inspector A said. I said that this is what it needs to be. Again, which is that kind of power trip type of thing that we have dealt with the program. And again, they can really stagnate your rental income, which could too also put you in a bad situation. Right. Pretty much goes like this: when you get a voucher program person who's interested in your home, they sit down with you, you sign that voucher, they take the voucher to that caseworker. The caseworker then orders an inspection. The inspector comes out. If he finds items, which 99% of the time he does, he's going to give you a list of items that need to be addressed. You have to address the items. Now, even before this, it's no conversation with the caseworker or the program about what the rents can or should or will be. So you're just kind of, spending more money, not even knowing if you're even going to be able to get the price point that you need to satisfy your cash flow or your opportunity for profit. You do the list of items, right, which could cost you anywhere between $500 to $5,000. You get Inspector B that comes out after you've done $5,000 worth of work, and he gives you another $1,500 worth of work, which they don't know if you have it or not. But again, the perception is you are this multimillionaire, property owner that has a lot of money, that you really don't care about these people. So we want to make sure that this house looks like Taj Mahal.
Even if you're a retired postal
even
worker.
if you're a retired postal worker. So we need you to do this extra work. Again, it still hasn't been a conversation about what the rents can be or will be. We just need you to get this taken care of first. So then you do all of the items and then find out, well, we are only going to give you $1,000. But quite frankly, you wanted to get $1,500 or $1,400, which I think at this point you've spent additional money, which comes off of your bottom line. And, they don't really care because it's so many people that want to get in the program that you're kind of at the mercy of them, which I think is really unfair. But you either want Section 8 or you don't. Now, the program in general is supposed to be a transitional program to help people get on their feet to buy a home. Assuming that, okay, you have a full-time job, maybe you're making a little over minimum wage, right? And the end of the month, based on Section 8 guidelines, you can only be able to pay the $250. Well, if you're making money, the goal or the object of the program is to take this money, and save up to get any side issues, credit being one of them, needing transportation, needing to put toward education or whatever, to put you in the next 4, 5, 6 years in a better position to say, okay, now the money that I would have used, say, $1,200 rent, I only pay $300, so I'm able to save, $1,000 a month or somewhere about. I can take this $1,000 and spend it toward getting a car or paying for education or something that could help me progress to be a better person in the next couple of years, this assistance is helpful. And then the program is actually designed to help these people transition to homeownership. They just don't, a lot of the residents take the money and they, spend it on just about anything. That's not, that's counterproductive to them moving in the direction that the program is designed for.
Yeah.
So
they're getting money, but they're not using it for what the government intended or what the program intended.
absolutely not. The going joke used to be in my office that you go into subsidized voucher holders' houses and you see the, TVs and cars and jewelry and clothes that quite frankly, as a working class person, I don't even have in my house. They have 60-inch TVs and they have, really nice shoes and bags and jewelry and stuff. And, we're looking like we work an honest living and we don't even have that stuff. So no, and, I've had family members that are voucher holders and they use that money as, trip money and vacation money and hangout money and it's gone. It's gone just as fast as anything else. So, and whether it's trained, I don't think that they, mandate the voucher holders to do a certain thing with the money. The infrastructure could use a lot of, improvement.
More accountability.
Way more accountability, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that law, and what impact would that have on investors and property owners?
I think it's a terrible law to even consider. Investors get into the business by choice. We, by amendments, have choices. We choose to wear what we want to wear. We choose to date who we want to date. We choose to eat what we want to eat. We choose to invest in what we want to invest in with our money. I don't think that any investor should be pigeonholed or forced, if you will, to be a part of a program that they don't desire to be a part of with their own investment, right? It may not fit their business model. It may not fit their direction of what they want for themselves. They may not want to be a part of the program. So to mandate any investor that chose to be an investor for their own investment purposes, not really understanding the complexion of the actual real estate portfolio period or the investment portfolio period, to make people be a part of a program that may not fit their business model at all is unfortunate. Quite frankly, I think that it's a terrible mistake. The voucher holders in the property not really understanding the complexion. Quite frankly, a lot of these people are probably non-investors. They don't understand the downfalls or misfortunes or disadvantages of having a subsidized program, hence the reason why they don't want to do it. Or if they've done it before and they say, I've given it a shot, I tried it, not really my thing, I would much prefer to deal with market rate, or I would much prefer to deal with whatever to make people even have to entertain it. I think it's ridiculous, actually, to be honest with you. You just can't make somebody, you shouldn't be able to, let's put it that way, make somebody be a part of a program when they chose to be an investor or chose to, they paid the money for the property and they paid the money for the renovation. Now let's talk about the inspections, right? We just talked about the inspections earlier about what they had to do. Well, let's just say somebody didn't have an additional $5,000 to do the list of inspections that Inspector A and potentially an Inspector C came along and told you that you had to do to qualify to put the voucher holders in the property, and or if the people were in the property and they trashed your place, you had to have the money to put. What if you wanted to just rent it out to your family, or what if you wanted to be a part of a completely separate program like Housing for Battered Women, of which program I work with, or Department of Social Services, which is completely different, and you wanted to focus on a subgroup for military or disabled or homeless. Now you're telling me with my own property and my own money and my own investment and my own vision that I have to do what you want me to do because I'm decided to be an investor in your state or in your jurisdiction. I think it's crazy. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Good. All right. Anything else you'd like to add, or?
No, listen, I really appreciate you bringing me in. I appreciate, you asking me my valued opinion amongst, I'm a peon amongst such a large topic just in general real estate and subsidized programs. But being as I've worked in this market and worked with the programs, just having the opportunity to have my voice heard on whatever capacity is, I really appreciate you bringing me in. It's been an awesome interview. Obviously, I've always looked at you as a mentor to me, as someone I could call and at least get some level of advice, even if it wasn't what I always wanted to hear. It was sound, good, straightforward, honest advice. So for you to ask me to do this I really, really appreciate it. I was excited about it. I put on my nice church clothes, my good tie, and so it was good. Whatever else, obviously, that you need from me, I'm always here. But it was a great interview. It was really fun.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.